Hey Merfolk fans, I'm Joe. Thank you very much for joining me today. This is going to be a replay of round 1 of a modern competitive league, but before I get into the gameplay, I wanted to cover a few points with you guys. First, I got a new laptop recently, which has a really amazing screen, much higher resolution than my previous laptop. So the screen capture video should be much higher resolution. You guys should be seeing much crisper text with very nice colorful images. So I hope you're seeing as nice a picture as I am. And I also spent a good amount of time improving my audio setup. So hopefully also the audio quality is much higher than in my previous videos. So yeah, leave a comment and let me know what you think about the new production quality. Hopefully it's a lot better than it used to be. Next point is that a YouTube user named Kyle Walters asked me if I had a Patreon page. And I didn't have a Patreon page. I didn't really start my channel to try to make money. But the idea that some of you guys appreciate my content so much that you might want to donate $1 or $2 was pretty exciting to me. So I decided that I would start a Patreon page. So here's a link if you want to check it out. Kyle is my first patron, so a very big thank you to Kyle for that, for the suggestion, and also for being my first patron. Thanks very much. The third point is that I'll be leaving on Monday for Europe, and I'll be gone all the rest of August. So there won't be any videos in August after this weekend. But I'll be back in September, and I'm really excited to start making a lot more videos with my new audio and video setup. So yeah, stay tuned in September, and I should have a handful of videos for you guys to watch this weekend. So let's get started. A quick look at the deck. It hasn't changed much since the last videos that I recorded and uploaded. I've got 20 lands, as usual, 8 basic islands, 4 Wanderwine Hubs, the 2 legendary lands, 2 Cavern of Souls, and 4 Mutavaults. As far as the Merfolk go, I shaved 2 recently, running now only 3 Reejereys and 3 Master of Waves, in order to make space for the 2 Smugglers Copters, which are kind of honorary creatures in the deck. So playsets of everything, but only 3 of the Reejereys and 3 Master of Waves. 2 Kiras, so the actual creature count is 28, and the Smugglers, being sort of honorary creatures, bring it up to exactly half the deck at 30. We've got a Dismember and an Echoing Truth over here. Dismember and the Echoing Truth. Singletons in the main deck. The 4 Spreading Seas, of course, and the 4 Aether Vials, rounding out the 60 cards in the main deck. Over in the sideboard, again, not many changes since the last videos. We've got the 3 Ceremonious Rejections. Actually, in the league I'm showing you now, I was running 2 Dispels and 4 Negates, since Negate just seemed like a better catch-all spell. But Dispel just seems to do such a great job against a lot of matchups that are difficult. I mean, we have the Devoted Druid deck running Collected Company. Pretty much all Collected Companies are a little bit annoying for us. Elves runs Collected Company, so Dispel is just perfect for those matchups, and then you're always coming up against at least 1 burn deck in every league, and Dispel is one of the best cards against them. So even though in this league that I'm showing you guys now, I was only on 2 Dispels, moving forward, I'm going to be on a balance of 3, 3, and 3 for the counterspells in the sideboard. I've got 2 extra Dismembers helping out against other creature decks. It comes in the mirror, but most important, it's in there for... again, Devoted Druid, they can win on turn 3, which is pretty annoying. So we need these guys to keep them off of their combo pieces. And then for Relic of Progenitus, you guys know what that's for. There's a lot of decks in Modern that try to use the graveyard, and Relic does a great job of keeping them off of that. All right, so that's the main deck and the sideboard. So I'm going to go ahead and click into the replay window. If you don't want to see any of the results, please look away now. So I'm going to click now. All right, so I'm here now with game 1 of round 1 of a modern competitive league. Let's see how the opening hands look. I won the die roll. It's a great way to start a league. And what do you guys think of this hand? It's got 3 lands, 4 creatures, which sounds good. It's a little light on blue mana, and we've got 3 double blue spells But this is a pretty easy keep, right? I mean, we have a Reejerey, which is castable with the 3 lands we already have. And we have many other blue sources in the deck, which will get these guys online quickly. In the event that we stall for a turn or two trying to hit that blue source, we can always attack with a Mutavault if need be. So not the best opening hand, but definitely a keep. So let's see if the opponent kept, and they did. So 7 cards for each of us. I'm just going to play my island and pass, again in the hopes that I draw another blue source so we can play a 2-drop next turn. Well, we see a Mutavault, and for 1 colorless mana, we see an Aether Vial. Alright, so the mirror match to get the league started. It's always interesting. Well, not always interesting. Most of the time it's interesting. You'll notice that I kind of whiffed drawing blue mana there, instead hitting another spell that costs 2 blue mana. So we really need to hit a blue source soon. Opponent untaps and takes Aether Vial up. They'll play an island, which is nice because we'll need that later. Okay, so this is interesting. The opponent has chosen to open with a Spreading Seas on my Mutavault. Now that will take me off an attacker, obviously, but it seems like a bit of a rookie move because when I played my Mutavault, I didn't have a turn 2 play, which almost definitely means that I'm short on blue mana as a Merfolk deck. So it probably would have been, if the opponent's only play is Spreading Seas this turn, it probably would have been much better for him just to put it on my island, or put it on his own island. It doesn't really matter where he puts it, just don't give me access to extra blue mana. It's a little interesting. After the fact, I went and looked up Luke R94 and saw that he actually got a 5-0 somewhat recently playing Death and Taxes. So it's possible that he's a little bit new to Merfolk, but I think that this was a mistake. The opponent does get to draw a card, but he's just passing the turn with Aether Vial on 1. Alright, well, I drew a Master of Waves. This game is developing pretty slowly. Master of Waves does best in slow games. But pretty clear here, even though I have access to 2 blue mana, that I should be playing Merrow Reejerey to take advantage of his tapping and untapping ability, trying to generate some value next turn. I'll pass back to the opponent. He's going to take Aether Vial up to 2, and let's see what he's got this turn. So there's an Oboro. But he's just passing priority. Looks like he doesn't have anything this turn. So yeah, really slow. Alright, I'm going to go to my turn. On my draw step, okay, the opponent's starting to tap some stuff. So you guys know what it means when we see 2 blue mana and colorless being tapped during our draw step. It is a Vendilion Click. So I know a lot of Merfolk builds have started to run Click. It's a very interesting card, very powerful. Flash is a cool ability. It's great against decks like Scapeshift that we have a hard time against. You know, it can ship a Scapeshift or a Primeval Titan to the bottom of the deck. But in the mirror match, we have such redundancy in our deck that, I don't know, not necessarily the most effective. I think you'd much rather be playing a Merrow Reejerey than a Vendilion Click. Alright, so I thought about this for a little while. I let the click resolve so that the trigger goes on the stack, but before the trigger resolved, I thought about whether I wanted to cast Echoing Truth before giving the opponent an opportunity to take it away. It is a singleton, so if he shipped it to the bottom of the deck, I would never see it again for the rest of the deck. And bouncing his Aether Vial seems like a pretty cool opportunity. So after I thought about it a little bit, though, I realized he pretty much has to take the Master of the Pearl Trident. So I'm going to let the ability resolve. Let him see my hand. If he wants to take the Echoing Truth, I think that's actually fine because we'd love to have the good Island Walk Lord still in the hand. But the opponent did ship the Lord to the bottom of the deck. In its place, I drew a Wanderwine Hub, which is nice because we need some more mana, especially since we don't have an Aether Vial. Now, I thought about this a little bit. The sequencing doesn't really matter here. I could try to bounce. So first of all, I'm going to play Wanderwine Hub and reveal Harbinger. I was just starting to talk about the sequencing. If I tried to bounce the Aether Vial first with Echoing Truth, if he had a creature, he could put it in response, but then the Echoing Truth would resolve. After which, I could play a Harbinger, tap something, but I wouldn't have Island Walk, and he'd still have a creature up if he put it in with Aether Vial to block. So I just did it the other way. I'm going to play the Harbinger first, try to tap the Aether Vial, see if the opponent has anything in response. They do not, which is really great to see. Opponent has an extremely slow opening, and it's going to get even slower with that AEther Vial going back to their hand. Cannot attack with the Reejerey here. We absolutely do not want to trade with that Vendilion Click. Okay, opponent untaps. 7 cards in hand, they play a Mutavault, back down to 6, and we know they have a Vendilion Click in hand. Oh, I'm sorry. No, they played the Vendilion Click. They don't have it in hand, but they do have 6 other cards. Let's see. Any follow-ups? Okay, tapping out for what must be a Master of Waves. That's pretty good in combination with Vendilion Click and a Spreading Seas. They get 4 tokens. But the opponent knows that I have a Harbinger in hand. And with Reejerey on the board, this is kind of a huge tempo blowout. I have a couple of choices here. I could play out the Master of the Pearl Trident, untap a blue source, then play the Harbinger, tap the Master and bounce him. With the Island Walk Lord that I just drew on the table, I would be swinging for 7. But then the opponent would be aware that he's being threatened by Island Walk, and I don't think we necessarily need to do that yet. If instead of that I just play the Harbinger, tap and bounce the Master of Waves and swing with Mutavault, we'll actually get in for 8 this turn, taking the opponent down to 12. And then with 4 bodies between Mutavault and 3 Merfolk, we can play 2 Island Walk Lords next turn and hopefully just get in with Overkill the following turn with sort of surprise Island Walk. Actually, the opponent knows that I have this purple Lord of Atlantis over here, which could affect their strategy, but I still think it's correct to just keep my Island Walk Lords in hand and safe. If the opponent wants to develop any kind of board, they'll probably have to play out this Master of Waves again. So we're going to activate Mutavault here and get in for 8, as I mentioned, leaving the opponent with just the Vendilion Click in hand. Not in hand, I keep saying in hand. Leaving the opponent with just the Vendilion Click on the board. It is a flying clock, but it's a very slow clock, especially in the mirror match, where I'm coming for 8 a turn. Okay, opponent plays another Mutavault. Looks like they have plenty of lands. They get in for 3 with the Vendilion Click. So I guess that, it does show that they know I have Island Walk access. They didn't leave the click back as a blocker. Okay, and it looks like they're just tapping down 4 Master of Waves again. They're going to get those same 4 tokens. So basically, Harbinger of Tides acted as a time walk that turn. It's pretty awesome. So the opponent's passing the turn with 1 colorless mana up, which, we all know could represent Dismember. Could affect combat math. For my turn, I drew a Silvergill Adept. Getting back to Dismember for a second, you always have to keep in mind that while Dismember can lower the amount that we're attacking for, it also lowers our opponent's life total. This comes up a lot against Eldrazi when they bring in their Dismembers. Often, the Dismember will actually help our game plan more than hurt it, lowering the opponent's life total very quickly. So as I mentioned, it looks like my plan is good to go. I'm just going to play out both Island Walk Lords, untapping lands each time. That'll let me activate Mutavault. If the opponent does dismember one of my Lords of Atlantis, one of my Island Walk Lords, I'll still be getting through since he controls an island, and it will be overkill. So let's go ahead and see how the turn went. I thought about Silvergill for a second, but then just realized it's not worth it. We'll play the first Island Walk Lord. The opponent didn't know about that one, so that was a surprise. He did see this one in the before, I think. And they'll go ahead, activate Mutavault for 19 attacking damage. Again, if he has Dismember, it would go down to 15. Unless he hits one of my attackers, in which case, like if he decided to Dismember Mutavault, I'd still be getting in for 14. So I think there's no way around it. It's just overkill this turn. And the opponent scooped it up. So game 1 in the mirror match going to us. Look away for a second, guys, if you don't want to see the match result. I'm going to click out of this window now. All right, this new laptop is so much quicker than my old one. I can go in and out of the window much more quickly. Opponent's going to be on the play for game 2. The opponent kept 7, and this is an easy keep for us. Some early creatures. We have a chance to keep them off of Island Walk, though we may eventually need to play this island. Yeah, but a pretty solid opening hand. Could be better in the mirror match, but I'm definitely not complaining. Let's see what the opponent's got. We love seeing islands. We don't love seeing AEther Vial. All right, we drew another non-basic land, which means we'll at least get to Reejerey without playing any islands. So Oboro into Cursecatcher, easy turn 1, we'll just pass back to the opponent. They're going to take their AEther Vial up, play a Mutavault, and let's see if they have the Spreading Seas again this game. No, this time it's a Silvergill, revealing another Silvergill Adept. So they get to draw a card, and they'll pass the turn to me with AEther Vial on 1. Kira is pretty good in the mirror match. It can make combat a lot easier since the opponent can't bounce one of our guys at instant speed with Harbinger. Kira just protects our creatures from that. This turn, I think I'm just going to play the Mutavault, play a Silvergill Adept. I'll reveal Merrow Reejerey because it's almost certainly the next card that I'm going to play. Let's see what I draw off that. Well, there's another island. Definitely not the best. Though we may need to play 1 or 2 of those sooner or later to get Kira down. Now, I'm not going to attack here. The opponent could have a Cursecatcher in hand to trade with. Could also just trade with the Silvergill Adept. But since the opponent's on the play with an AEther Vial, we should consider ourselves on defense, especially since we're keeping them off Island Walk for the time being. So no need to attack right now. Opponent's going to tick their AEther Vial up. They played an island and are going to activate the AEther Vial, bringing in that second Silvergill Adept. So a little bit interesting to note that the opponent played out their second island before bringing the Silvergill Adept in, potentially further revealing that the opponent is a little bit new to the deck. You typically want to play your Silvergill first before making your land drop because you could draw better land, potentially a Mutavault to provide another body for attacking. But since the opponent already had an island on board, potentially giving me access to Island Walk later, it's not the biggest deal that they ran out the second island right away. Again, just the patterns of play as an observation, potentially showing that the opponent is a little bit new to the deck. So here we see the second Silvergill. He's going to resolve. He's going to draw another card. So opponent getting to draw a bunch of cards this game. There is Master of the Pearl Trident. As soon as this guy resolved, the opponent rushed into combat and turned his Silvergill Adept sideways. My impression was that he felt he had Island Walk online, since he has this Island Walk Lord. But odds are he probably would have attacked in this spot anyway. As I mentioned, the opponent being on the play with an AEther Vial is the aggressor in this matchup. So he probably wants to attack here, but I'm definitely going to take the opportunity to block. I'll trade with the Silvergill Adept, my 2-1 trading for their 3-2, and I think that was probably it for the opponent's turn. So it's possible that they may have wanted to actually have hard cast the Silvergill Adept, leaving up 1 blue mana. Potentially they would have drawn into a Cursecatcher and then had blue mana to cast it, and then they could have used AEther Vial to put in the Lord instead of Silvergill Adept. Just a lot of possibilities that they didn't take that turn. Dismember, very happy to see it. Again, we have the opponent off of Island Walk for the time being. We're slowing things down as the player on the draw. That's what we kind of need to do. It's a very, very aggressive matchup, and if we can make some trades in the early part of the game, kill one or 2 of their creatures, we have a better chance to stabilize and hopefully turn the tables. So opponent leaves AEther Vial on 2, immediately activating it again. And there's a third Silvergill. So a pretty good opening hand, it looks like, from the opponent. Here we see they're activating Mutavault, so getting aggressive. They still don't have access to Island Walk, so we're going to get to be able to choose some blocks. Looks like the only real good option here, though, is trading the Cursecatcher for the Silvergill Adept. Trying to keep their board paired down. We could have double blocked Reejerey and Silvergill into the Mutavault, but that would have been terrible because he could have dealt 1 to the Silvergill and 2 to the Reejerey. Sorry, to my Cursecatcher, 1 to the Cursecatcher and 2 to the Reejerey. When the Reejerey died, the Cursecatcher would have also died. So we let the Mutavault through for now, going down to 17, and the opponent passes with 5 cards in hand, and AEther Vial on 2. though it's already been activated. So Harbinger is great. On top of this Dismember, it's a bit of interaction. We get to slow them down a little bit. It's definitely time to play an island. We need to open up some more possibilities with our mana. Easy first play is Cursecatcher, because with Reejerey out, you guys know it's just like a free spell. So Cursecatcher on the board. After that, even though bouncing the Lord seems decent with Harbinger, I could even just leave up the mana to instant speed bounce. I think the better play is to get Kira down now and leave up mana for Dismember, with the intention of hitting his Island Walk Lord next turn, probably during combat. Again, no good attacks, being on the back foot here. Opponent's turn. They leave AEther Vial on 2, immediately activates it again. And there's the 4th Silvergill Adept. So I don't know how we can compete against this all this card draw. No activation of Mutavault. The opponent just getting in with a single Silvergill Adept. Important to note that they do have Island Walk right now. I have an Island and they have an Island Walk Lord. But as I was discussing, I'm going to go for the Dismember on the Island Walk Lord. It resolves, and the opponent is taken off Island Walk, so I'm going to go ahead now and trade my Cursecatcher for his Silvergill Adept. Now, very, very important to note that the Dismember did more damage to me than any of his creatures had done up till that point. I was at 17, and now I'm at 13. I need to really protect my life total. Again, the opponent has 5 cards in hand still, and has been pretty aggressive so far, attacking even without Island Walk. So passing the turn with all that mana up, we saw Vendilion Click last turn, and we see it again this game. I didn't mean last turn, I meant last game. So we let the click resolve. Fortunately, the only card in my hand has Flash, so in response to the click trigger, I can actually cast my Harbinger of the Tides. I did have to think for a second, though, about whether I wanted to actually bounce the click. We definitely want to tap it, so we'll target it with the Reejerey. We want to tap it because Kira can get in the air for 2 damage. So what do you think? Do we want to bounce the Vendilion Click, or do we just want to tap it? If we bounce it, of course, they get to recast it or even put it into play with AEther Vial, getting more value out of it enter the battlefield trigger. If we leave it, though, it gets to attack next turn, and it increases the clock. So after thinking about it for a moment, I decided it was probably best to actually bounce it. The opponent has a lot of cards in hand, and if the more that we can slow their attacks down, the better, even if they get to look at our hand. We do have 2 lands, so if next turn we draw another land, or we could potentially draw an instant that, again, we could cast in response to the click trigger. There's a lot of things that can happen that would make them recasting the Vendilion Click not really work out that well for them. But bouncing it definitely works out well for us in the short term. So our board starting to look a little bit better than the opponent's board. Click trigger doesn't do anything, just goes back to their hand. Again, kind of a time walk effect this turn. Since the opponent knows what we have in hand, I'll just play out that Wanderwine Hub, get in for 2 damage with the Kira, and pass the turn back to the opponent. Leaves AEther Vial on 2, cast a Spreading Seas, so the opponent's drawn 5 extra cards this game, and takes me off of one of my Mutavaults. With a 3/3 on board, the opponent decides not to attack with his 2/1, pretty strongly representing that he doesn't have an Island Walk Lord in hand. If he did, with me at 13, he'd almost certainly attack. I don't have Island Walk, so he could then activate Mutavault next turn if he had the Lord to block one of my creatures, since, again, I don't have Island Walk. So that's an important read. We can sort of assume that they don't have the Island Walk Lord now. With 3 mana up, I was expecting the opponent to then recast the click on my draw step, but I think they forgot to put their stop, because I got to go straight into my main phase, having drawn Silvergill Adept. And with priority, I can go ahead and cast that guy, further increasing my board. And once this resolves, I'll actually regain priority, and if I draw something good, I can cast it before the opponent has a chance to do anything with the Vendilion Click. So a pretty big misplay by the opponent here. I'm going to untap this island, again, just in case I draw something good. I can play my other land and play whatever I draw. And there's an Island Walk Lord. It's the bad one. So we do have to give it a little bit of consideration. If the opponent did have an Island Walk Lord to follow up with, this one would sort of supercharge their attacks next turn. Say they end step the Lord and put another Lord into play on the following turn, they could attack for like 4, 5, and 5. Yeah, that would be lethal, but it's kind of an absurd line that the opponent really hasn't been representing at all. So I feel pretty safe putting this Lord out and starting my own clock. So I'll play the island. Go ahead and try to tap AEther Vial just to take him off of any value he can get out of a Harbinger, though I already have Kira on the board. Resolves, and I'm going to attack with everything I can other than Kira, right? Because the opponent has been meaning to flash in the Vendilion Clique, but hasn't gotten around to it yet. Opponent takes 7, so a huge chunk of damage, going all the way down from 18 to 11, and very belatedly plays the Vendilion Clique. They target themselves this time, shipping something to the bottom, hopefully drawing something better. AEther Vial continues to stay on 2, and at that point the opponent scooped it up. So 2 pretty easy games against the mirror match, but kind of strange games, right? We weren't just bashing into each other. There was a lot of blocking going on, which is definitely unusual for the matchup. Let me know your guys' thoughts on the match, on the mirror match, on sideboard tech. I meant to show you guys my sideboard earlier, but didn't get around to it. I actually, for this matchup, I bring in 2 Dismembers and take out 2 of my Cs, and it's a really easy 2-for-2 swap. Like, no thought necessary, just click, 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 and ready to go. Yeah, so here's another link to the Patreon that I mentioned earlier. If you guys want to donate a little bit of money to help support me making these videos, I'd very much appreciate it. And yeah, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll catch you in the next video for round 2 of this Modern Competitive League. Thanks, guys. Bye.